Hello, all you Viking warriors and shield maidens alike. As always, I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be previewing The Great Whale Road, which marks a Steam debut for Sunburned Games, who are both developing and publishing the game. The game is currently on Kickstarter and is set to release later this year. The game itself is a indie turn-based strategy game that is based upon your survival, resource management, and of course turn-based tactics. It is very similar in likeness to that of the Banner Saga, and is no doubt inspired by the Banner Saga and obviously the Banner Saga's success, because it is very similar in nearly all aspects of its core design. The game itself is set in the times of the Vikings, and you play in the Danish campaign at least as the head of a clan of Viking warriors, and your old clan head has died, including most of your best warriors, and it is your job to build up the clan once more and go out and raid, pillage, and get all that glory and plunder. Only the Danish are playable in the early access version. However, the full version is going to have several campaigns, including the Franks, the Picts, and of course the Northumbrians, which I'm very excited about because that is where I hail from. The game is heavily story driven, which is something I really like. It's about taking the clan member that you're supposed to represent, and very similar in the way that the Banner Saga was also done. It's about going through the story of your clan, trying to help your clan survive and build them up, etc., etc., and go through all the motions that incurs. Now, of course, as with the Banner Saga also, the Great Whale Road also contains resource management, so we'll start there when talking about mechanics. Now, unlike the Banner Saga, where you were always on the move, you always had a travelling caravan, Whale Road essentially works around an established base. So you have a home or, a town, a village, whatever it is, and you always start from that point. So the game timescale works around 2 seasons, summer and winter, and you, in the summer, for example, you will start setting things on your resource management side for what you want to do. So you may want to, put a lot of points into farming and warrior building, training, etc., etc. And then you will get projected forecasts for the spring, and winter comes, etc., etc. And as the years go by, each time you'll increase in resources, but also as you increase in size, your demands on resources will ever increase. Farming, hunting, etc. is the basic ways to get food supplies. Now, of course, you can also trade for them when you travel to other towns for coin, and you also will gather resources that are essentially tradable goods rather than actual resources that you can sell off to gain a good income. It's a fairly simple system, but it works very well, and it adds a nice element of survivability to the overall game. Now, what's most important about resource management is not only having enough food for your overall tribe to survive and enough resources for them to flourish, etc., but you also have to take resources with you when you travel. Now, very similar to the Banner Saga, when you start traveling, you get aboard a Viking longboat, and then you will travel on a 2D screen, and you will encounter events along the way. But also, while you're traveling, your resources will be consumed, so you have to leave resources at your base for your people to survive, but you also are going to have to take supplies for the squad that you're taking on that trip. And it's essentially kind of trying to balance it out, so you have a number of supplies to take with you, including all the goods that you want to trade, and you also need supplies to repair your ship. You're going to need food supplies to keep all your men fed, and at the same time leaving enough for the people who are left in the village to survive also. Game also has narrative events as you play, so whether you're traveling by boat, or you're visiting a nearby city, or camping along the shoreline, or even at your home base, you may encounter an event where you are asked to choose a decided course of action. Your various characters who are also in your tribe will try and give you particular advice, or give you their thoughts on what you think they should do. And it's about basically choosing the best course of action for what you think is good for that situation. Some outcomes might be positive, some outcome might be negative. Now, I have to say that currently in the early access version, this isn't as good as something like the Banner Saga. The Banner Saga has a great choice and consequences system. It's clearly defined, things happen, and then there's severe consequences for that. Currently, a couple of the events that I've actually played through in Whale Road, they struggle to actually find meaningful consequences. So, for example, one time there was a situation where, a group of rival clansman tripped my leader and my leader fell face first in the mud. Now, as an honourable Viking, obviously I have to stand up and then I have to push back and I have to fight back. Now, I did, and I won, and then there was nothing. Nothing happened. And there's just a distinct lack of little bits and pieces here and there in the early access version that don't quite gel together. I really hope in the final version they put those little, choice consequences kind of thing in, so that when you actually do make a choice in an event, it does have some form of consequence, even if it is only a little text-based thing saying, those warriors got their asses handed to them and they apologized and gave you some gold and you got some gold for it. Like, that's fine. It's not a big consequence, but at least I know something happened after that instead of just ending and nothing occurring. When it comes to the combat works really well. It is a very simple turn-based system that works from an initiative ladder. Now, the most interesting thing about the combat is the card system. The card system works in a very simple way that instead of having a resource system that you have to spend to use cards work off turns. So a 3-turn card means that you can only use it once 3 turns have passed. A 5-turn card means that once it's turn 5, you can use that card, and if you're on turn 8, you can still use 3 or 5 turn cards. The most disappointing thing about the card system is the lack of variety. Currently in the game, from what I've seen so far, there is only offense boost cards, defense boost cards, and character cards where you're able to play a card and then a character will join the battle. I would really like to see some more variety in the card system, maybe some activated abilities where you could damage, all characters around you, or, maybe a ranged ability that people could take out their bows and attack enemies across the field. Just something to really spice up the overall combat. Other than the card system, it is a very simple turn-based system where characters have health and an armor rating if they do have armor, and you just wield that down, depend on RNG, etc, etc. And it's a very simple system, and anyone who's played a turn-based system before will come to grips with it very, very quickly. Now, I have to say that I really love the art style of the game. The music, the art style, the overall aesthetic of the game is fantastic. It looks great, it sounds great, and I think on this particular point they get an A+ from me. It works really, really well. It looks fantastic. All the characters look really well. Each character has their own personality, and I think that overall it's something that they've clearly taken from games like the Banner Saga, put their own little spin on it, so to speak, and it looks great, and you can't fault it for that. That being said, I have a couple of criticisms currently at the game. Now, I do realise that it is early in access, so these aren't bugs, because there is going to be bugs in an early access game. My problem with the game is currently that it just doesn't feel quite fleshed out yet. I think that it would be fun to really make sure that that card system is fleshed out. I think resource management needs to be fleshed out a little bit more, and that is almost tied directly into the event system and the narrative system. I think choices and consequences need to be a big, big thing in this game. They're wanting it to be like the Banner Saga, and what makes the Banner Saga so good is not only its combat, not only its aesthetic, but its choice and consequence system. I want characters to be able to die just from, a random instant in a boat. That would be great, just to keep you on your toes the entire way through. Sometimes maybe a raid and an event system, and just really put some real good consequences into that event system. Make sure it's fine-tuned. Make sure that it keeps you interested and engaged, and that it will ultimately lead this game to success. The last major criticism I have is, of course, about the combat. Not that it's lacking in variety, which it does currently, but it is a slightly smidge too easy. I think that once you start the game and you're trying to get to grips with the system, it can feel a little bit challenging, but once you've actually leveled up your characters and you get the feel and the flow of combat, it gets really, really easy, and it stays really, really easy. And I think that, again, the variety would help with that, but also you need a little bit better AI and a system that gets more challenging, or at least keeps the curb the curve of difficulty at a good level, maybe some boss battles, something a little bit different maybe, because at the moment you're only really facing other humans, like, maybe you're facing Saxons or Northumbrians, etc. It would be really good to face, animals like a giant bear or something like that, just something in there that doesn't break the overall tone of the game, because it's trying to be somewhat historically accurate, I guess. But just something in there, like a big bear or something, pack of wolves, just to add a little bit of spice to the combat and add to the difficulty of the game. That all being said, however, I do think this game has a great amount of potential. I really, really enjoy this game. I think it has a bright future. I think Sunburned games have a bright future if they keep this up. Like I say, I hope they take the criticisms of the game, tweak it up, polish it off, make sure that they have good choice and consequences, really nail down that narrative side of the game. And if you nail down that narrative side, nail down those choice and consequences, then everything else, even, the lackluster combat, can be forgiven because it keeps you interested. So ultimately, I really hope that they do that. It'll be interesting to see, what's coming in the full version, and I'm hoping that they really do what they say they're going to do when it comes to the full version, including the, the multiple campaigns, improving the AI, enhancing the trading system, better progression, all that kind of thing. And I think if that happens, then you're set to have a really solid, RPG strategy game that will keep players, especially fans of games like the Banner Saga, that it will keep them very, very happy. And that is the Great Whale Road. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Do like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. And as always, I will see you next time.